Week 9 of college lacrosse game day, folks. My name is Dan.
I'm Mike.
I'm Brett.
I'm Hayden.
And if you're tuning in for the first time, you're probably thinking we're a bunch of slapdick scallywags. You might be right, which is why we're bringing Dan Arrestia on, the Godfather of Ball Knowledge. Before he educates all of us, we have some historically good call-ins from both the fans and the hot shots of our game. Before the magic happens, here is the 8-second shot clock.
Chaos at Klockner Saturday. Unranked Virginia knocked out top-ranked Notre Dame 11-9. The Irish were held scoreless for the final 20 minutes, and Brendan Millen earned his millions in the final frame.
Down 3 goals with under 3 minutes left, Colgate raided Navy. They tied it at 15 and sunk the midshipmen in double overtime to win 16-15. Casey Quinson was quite the catalyst for Colgate's comeback. He had 6 goals, including the game winner.
In front of 9,300 fans in the Dome, Cuse handed Duke their first loss of 2026. 16-15 final. Belena's 6 points put him over 300 for his career.
Didn't see this coming. Georgetown beat the bag out of Denver on the road, 17-5. Charlie McGurran was ubiquitous. 6 ground balls and 3 caused turnovers.
Thrilling upset in Ithaca. Yale takes down Cornell 13-12. Yale goalie Ben Friedman had 20 saves, 3 of which came in the final minute of regulation.
Big Ten Sunday ball on linear television is better than Gatorade out of one of those sucky bottles. Starting at their own goal line extended out of a timeout, down 1 with 11 seconds left, Rutgers tied it up against Hopkins on a 17-yard step down from Casey Mongillo with less than a second remaining. Hayden Summer called game in the second overtime frame. Rutgers wins 9-8.
To quote Booker, Duffy earned his NIL money on Sunday against Harvard. He had 7, and the Tar Heels rolled over the Crimson.
Welcome back, fans. Another week of the Creators Podcast, College Lacrosse Game Day. We're going to catch up for just a moment and then get into Collins as quick as possible because we have a lot of them, and then Dan Arrestia is coming on to talk ball. Big slate this weekend. We can't wait to get into it. Hayden, I'll start with you, man. You are a couple games into an early season at Lincoln Sudbury. How's it going so far?
It's good. It's good. You know, it's the early season. Like, it's weird. Like, we're following college lacrosse, and like it feels like we're, you know, midway, almost towards the end of the season in college lacrosse. But high school lacrosse in Massachusetts is just getting started. So, you know, going through all those growing pains of, you know, early season stick work and injuries and all that. So, you know, you kind of deal with it as a fan in college lacrosse, but now being a coach and in high school lacrosse, like, you're dealing with it firsthand, and you really start to understand, like, how important injuries are, especially early season. And I loved what Andy Towers said last week about, you know, playing in cold weather lacrosse. Like, a slash on the wrist in 10-degree weather can result in an 8-week injury. And a slash in 60-degree weather, right, there is no injury, right? You rub it off and you're back on the field in like 5 minutes. So
Makes a difference.
yeah, I don't know. I thought that was a good point by Andy Towers, and I've kind of been thinking about that all week.
Getting slashed in 10-degree weather.
Yeah. What a difference the warm weather makes, and we're almost there.
Yeah, but you guys are playing some in-state games, out-of-state games. You lost one to Niskayuna, which is a public powerhouse.
Loss. Got a Bergen Catholic tomorrow, so New Jersey. Private school, Catholic school. I think it's a private school, but
Heard of them, Mike?
No.
Bergen Catholic?
Kidding.
So there's a big
Yeah,
brand
I do.
down there, no?
It is, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Everybody knows them, so that'll be a good one tomorrow. But yeah, no, it's been fun.
Mike, how are things in Jersey?
Good, man. Speaking of high school lacrosse, Roxbury, New Jersey High School, 2-0. One of my buddies I played with, grade above me, is the head coach. First year, 2-0. Shout out to the
exciting.
boys.
Are you coaching at all down there or no? Or no, you're in Syracuse.
No, too much
I
back
forgot.
and forth. I'll get back into coaching up here once I'm a little more settled. No doubt in my mind.
You were pretty settled this weekend. You were at a golf simulator watching Cuse Duke with a
True.
bunch of lacrosse fans.
We're getting there, man. Dude, this is a lacrosse city. I know a lot of people talk about it. It's lacrosse town.
You think Syracuse is the lacrosse city? Like, is there another city in the United States that people love lacrosse more?
There's not. I think Quint alluded to it. Like, it's just a savvy fan base. Like, when you go to a Syracuse lacrosse game, the fans know every call. They know what's going on. They're not just all about, oh, that's a flashy play. Like, they know everything. Like, you could feel the momentum in the stadium because they understand little plays, as where other fans wouldn't. And then, I went to a golf simulator called 5-Iron in downtown Houston. I'm just hitting the ball. I have lacrosse on my TV, and then there's the game on 4 other TVs. People, I have no idea. They don't even look like people who watch lacrosse.
Do they love Syracuse or do they love lacrosse? Like, if you walk into a bar on a Saturday, are there games on multiple TVs? Or is it always just Syracuse?
It's mainly Syracuse.
Yeah.
But I also feel like when I am there, Syracuse just happens to be playing. when I'm seeing this happening, but they love lacrosse. There's no doubt about it.
We'll see if Jerry McNamara can make it a basketball school once again.
They hope.
Honestly, Cuse basketball being down kind of maybe bring some fans over to our sport a little bit.
It probably helped a little bit.
I was also traveling. Lacrosse was on at the ski bar at J Peak in the middle of fucking nowhere. Wow. First thing, I walk in, it's cold as shit. I take off my stuff, look at the menu for whatever beer I'm getting. Duke, Syracuse, on the screen. I was like, what's going on? I looked around. Nobody was lacrosse fans. It was just on.
I mean, how can it not be? It's a tier 1 game.
It's
a tier 1.
It's a tier 1 experience.
It was made to be.
It is. I want to know how much the tickets were.
Gary, I've also been thinking about this a little bit. Like, Gary Gate, the head coach at Syracuse, like, he's a coach. He's the head coach. But I feel like his main role is to bring popularity to Syracuse lacrosse. Since we've had him on, like, he was talking about the tier 1 games and the fan experiences and all that stuff. And, like, I don't know. You're starting to see it in motion a little bit. Like, I don't know, the Duke Syracuse game being on in Syracuse and in J Peak, and I was in Schenectady and I was watching the game. Like, it's everywhere, and that's good to see. It's growing a little bit, but seeing some like actual tangible evidence of it is great news. It's just great news.
He's an entertainer. We've talked about how there's no primetime games, and at the end of the day, it sounds like the answer is the coaches. He sounds like one of the coaches who would be at the forefront of just putting a game at Friday night or a Sunday night or a Saturday primetime just because he's an entertainer. He wants Syracuse lacrosse to be at the forefront of
What time was your game? What time was your game this weekend? Do you remember?
It was the second ESPNU game. It was after the UVA Notre Dame game, so it was...
It was at 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
It was at 2 o'clock.
2 p.m.
And we're all talking about the game right now because it was at 2 o'clock.
There you go.
Perfect slot.
Just
I wonder who
perfect case study.
I wonder who the next program will be to follow in those footsteps, kind of. Is it going to be Duke? Is it going to be UNC? Is it going to be Richmond? Is it going to be Cornell? Is it going to be Yale? Is it going to be Penn? Is it going to be Marist? Siena?
Who knows?
Who's going to be? Who's it going to be?
Who's it going to be?
It's literally right here. Someone just got to take it and own it.
I love it. The Big Ten has it figured out. They got their own streams going on their own networks. Excited for more action. Let's get into the call-ins because we have a lot of them. Some big names called in. Let's start with the biggest one of them all. Let's start with a friend of the program, former guest who was doing color commentary for the Syracuse game, Quint K. What's he has to say? I have to say.
This is Quint K. of ESPN. I was up at Syracuse last weekend, and I got to send a shout-out to the best fans in the game right now. They reside in central New York. They're sophisticated, they're nuanced, they're supportive, they're smart. They're exactly what you want fans to be, and they've been packing the JMA Wireless Dome this season. Listen to these numbers. Against BU, they got 5,500. Against Maryland, 10,000. On a Sunday against Georgetown, 7,200. And last week I was up there, the place was rocking. 9,400 fans in a win against Duke. Those are the top 4 attendance numbers of the season, and they all belong to Syracuse. Right now, unquestionably, the best fans in the sport.
Wow, you couldn't have timed that call in any better.
We didn't even listen to it before.
I mean, I was going to say,
really,
we might as well just tie it off.
I saw with those numbers, I think the average, if you average it out, 6,000 something for all of their home games. But just at the point we already made, like when you have savvy fans like that, the atmosphere with 9,000 of them it's impeccable. You can't really find anything else like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're talking about the runouts, the ground balls, everything that's not a goal. Like they go nuts for because they get it. They get it.
But you also got to think, if Syracuse didn't have the dome, a perfect climate weather in a perfect climate environment in the dead of winter, like would they be getting these fans?
No, but that's why it's so beautiful. That's why it's such an amazing thing what they've built there.
Right.
That's
It's
why
amazing.
there's dome
It's incredible.
gods.
The dome gods.
Yeah, it is amazing. It is electric too. Like one day, maybe in like 20 years, that place will sell out.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how many it sits, but like imagine 30,000 fans in nosebleeds.
Have you seen Rudy?
I have.
When he walks out into he's watching his son play, he's watching Rudy play his dad. He's like, these are the greatest. This is the greatest sight these eyes have ever seen. That's going to be us in the dome.
How does that happen? How does like Notre Dame sell out the football stadium for a lacrosse game? How does it happen? Free admission? Like,
Yeah.
Strippers at halftime.
Yeah.
Let's go to J-Rock. Next call. Let's keep it moving.
We got J-Rock. He's talking about his next bet.
Hey. Rockefeller here. I'm checking in from the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. My father repurposed an oil rig into a bank. He takes his offshore banking quite seriously. Well, I'm in the vault right now, and I gotta say, these hundreds smell incredible. Anyway, I'll be walking out of here with at least 100 mil to put on Rutgers' money line this week. It's Cardilla time, baby. All right, I've gotta go before someone makes me sign something.
He's a rich man. He's a rich man. That's J-Rock. Rutgers at Michigan. They're on the road at Michigan. They had a huge win against Hopkins. Maybe the game of the year. At least the final frame was probably made it the game of the year. So I think a lot of people are really high on Rutgers right now. They're in conference play. They got Michigan this week. They could go 2-0 in conference just like that. Unless they I think they've lost their
They lost to Ohio State.
That's right. Thank you.
You know, I'll go on the record here and say, last week while we were picking games, I did pick Rutgers to beat Hopkins. I like Rutgers a lot. Last week they were 17th in the country. They're probably going to move up to 13th or 14th. They're probably going to flip with Hopkins. They're a solid team, and I love them beating Michigan. Michigan's down. We all know it. Rutgers is a formidable team. They have the guys to do it. And talk about a team that's right on the fringe of the top 15. That's a team that could win a national championship. They are good enough. They have the guys. They have the players to do it. They might have the culture to do it. Dan's looking at me like I'm nuts, but you never know. You never know. There's parity.
There's parity. You never know. I mean, they could be in at-large contention if they win a couple big Big Ten games. They only have how many losses? 2, 3, Michael? They're
3. They're 8-3.
Yeah. We'll keep an eye on them. Next,
we have a call from Dean Mitty back, and I'm sure he's talking about Q, so let's tie off on Q's here.
Dean Mitty back here. Now every time I call in and say Cuse is back, they lose. But not this time, because Cuse is back. Joey Spallina, he called a players-only meeting. He said no more Jenny Lights. We're only drinking Labatt's. And that's been the pivot point of the whole season, let me tell you that. We're running through the ACC, and we're taking it to the tournament. I'll see y'all in May. Thank you very much.
That's a good plug for Labatt Blue.
Yeah.
How many Labatt Blues have you drank in your life?
A bunch.
They're big in college, Michael.
Yeah, we used to do...
They're around at Hobart, that's for damn sure.
I mean, we used to do the bucket of blues thing Tuesday nights at SLU. You get 6 Labatts for $5 or whatever.
Shoot.
It was money.
A lot of people drink them in Syracuse, man. I've seen the most Labatt Blues I've seen in my lifetime in the past few months I've lived here.
Canadian Pilsners.
Shout out Coach Mo. It's his beer of choice.
Shout out Coach Mo.
Yeah. I mean, is Syracuse back? I actually hate saying that. I hate asking if teams are back.
You just made me cringe.
Yeah, sorry. I hear that
It's
all.
clickbait.
Is Hopkins back? They're Syracuse Lacrosse. They've never left. Look at your shirt. Oh no, I thought it was a Syracuse shirt.
Hell no. Purple and orange, baby.
Yeah, my bad. But yeah, no, I mean, that was a big win. That was a big win against Duke. I thought Duke was going to win that game. I thought they were going to prove something. They did prove something, but then again, if Syracuse doesn't play that game in the Dome, Duke's probably winning that game, but Syracuse is just on another level in the Dome. It's pretty remarkable to watch. Just the highlights that came from that game. There's 5 or 6 goals that are just my God. You haven't seen a goal like that all year. That Peyton Anderson one-handed flick.
Yeah.
Finn Thompson just on the crease behind the back. That feed by Spallina. Just
Dwan.
Floating it out. Yeah, Billy Dwan's get down to GLE and twister it in over the goalie. There's just some unbelievable plays. The ball's stickier. The sticks are better. It's just a different brand of the game.
It's a privilege.
In the Dome.
It's a privilege to watch.
Okay. Next we got Division III hero. He's talking about an overrated team.
All right, what's going on, fellas? Division III hero here. Thought I'd give you guys a call in. I got a little hot take for the fellas. I think Richmond is very overrated. I don't see them getting past a quarterfinal round, maybe even a first-round exit. I don't see the hype. I don't think they're going to go long in the NCAA tournament. Let me know what you boys think.
Easy to say. I think it's easy to hate on Richmond. You can't really...
It's easy to hate on a team that's never done it before.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I disagree. What have they shown that tells you that they can't win a national championship?
Right.
They're dismantling teams in the A10. And that is not a conference you just dismantle teams. At least so far.
I don't think a lot of people have watched them either. Like they're not Notre Dame. They're not like Michigan's playing on ESPNU or Big Ten Network like seemingly every week. Like Rutgers is probably on TV more than Richmond is, and I could say that about a lot of teams. So I don't know how many people have really watched Richmond and seen how good they are. I think back to our Gavin Creo interview. They beat Cornell 8-7, and his takeaway was, it seemed genuine, it was just like, we were frustrated as hell. Like we only scored 8 goals. Like it was not fun during the game because we felt really frustrated. And meanwhile, they just knocked off the defending champs. Huge win for them. So I disagree with the take. I think we should go right into Kevin's call, and we should listen to that one about Richmond. Some good stats we can ponder on. Same subject.
Fellas, Crease Dive Kev here. Just wanted to draw some parallels between the 2015 Denver team that won it all and this year's Richmond team. When Denver did it, it was their 16th year as a program. This is Richmond's 12th year. Bill Tierney took the Pios to the tournament in his first season in 2009. Monty took the Spiders to the tournament in 2014. That was their first year ever as a program. That year when Denver won it all, they were 7th in offense, 3rd in shot percentage, and 2nd in scoring margin. This year, Richmond is 6th in total offense, 3rd in shot percentage, and also 2nd in scoring margin. The difference here is that Tierney had already had success at Princeton prior to his championship at Denver. Shamati's 30 years younger. If you guys are him, do you use this success as a stepping stone to a blue blood, or do you stay and make Richmond the next one? Thanks, boys.
Wow.
That's good. We need some clickbait on that clip because that's a conversation that has not been had yet. Shamati, does he leave Richmond if this fairy tale season continues?
Yeah. You know, going back to that first call, like, you know, the statement is Richmond overrated? I really haven't heard that yet. And like, you know, you were kind of saying it's easy to say because they're an A10 team, but you know, I have not heard once that anybody thinks Richmond is overrated. I mean, like, they've been beating the bag out of teams. Like, other than that Cornell win, right, where they won 8-7, they beat Hobart by 16 last week. They beat UMass by 14 the week before. They beat Delaware by 12 the week before that. Like, they've been running through the schedule. Like, it really hasn't been close. Aside from the Cornell game, their closest game was against Virginia, where they won by 6. So I don't think Richmond's overrated. I think this weekend against Notre Dame, which is 1 versus 2 or 1 versus 4, unbelievable game. I think that'll tell us a lot about Richmond. But even if they drop that, like they lose that game by a goal or two, like I'm not going to sit here and say Richmond's overrated. Like they, you know, you kind of said it, like when you watch Richmond, like they are a dominant team in every game they play. And we brushed past some of their conference wins to start the conference play. They beat the shit out of Delaware. They beat the shit out of UMass, which is, you know, I think at this point we're kind of like, oh, you know, it's the conference. You know, this conference stinks. It's not whatever. UMass is a good program. So is Delaware. They're having a down year, but to come in conference games and just beat the piss out of those teams like that, it's right. And I missed a game like
UMass
before
was
Delaware.
top 20.
Yeah.
Keep going, Hayden.
Like before Delaware, they beat Georgetown 14-10. And I think Georgetown is like on the rise here. I think, you know, that's a pretty valuable win, especially looking at what they did to Denver this past weekend. But I don't know. I think Shamati's in the right place. You know, if Michigan opens up at the end of the year, is he going to go there? No freaking way. Maybe Duke or Virginia or UNC, but, you know, those aren't opening up anytime soon.
Duke? You don't think Duke's going to open up soon?
Well, you know he went to Duke, right? Played at Duke?
Okay. Well, that's
I just looked
that
that up, so I was like, what school did he play at? I feel like that is the only real place you could be worried he would accept a coaching job.
Yeah.
And obviously, Danowski is getting towards the end of his coaching career. Right. So,
isn't his son the offensive coordinator, the assistant coach?
Yeah, I've heard
role?
some things that the Duke alumni do not want the son to be the head coach.
Interesting. I feel like that's going to be the shoe-in that program.
But I do think once he does step down, they're going to go after Shamati hard. If he's still at Richmond at that time, I don't know when that's going to be. But I agree with you, Hayden. I think Richmond's the right place for him. You built a program up from the ground, and you're in conversation to be a national champion. He can use this to leverage to get a salary increase, I'm sure. I'm sure he's already getting paid pretty well. But I think he's in a great spot. I
think it just goes with the note that college sports are changing. Like, it's not always going to be the Maryland and the Virginia and the Duke and the national championship. Like, you're seeing it across all different programs. Indiana football, like taking a team and you know, that's not a traditional blue blood and all that. Like, you can win a national championship with it. with that program. If you have the right guys in the room, you have the right coach, and utilize the portal and increase your brand, and it's possible. And I think Shamati's in the right place to do it. And who knows? That Duke question is definitely interesting, but we will see.
Next call, similar thread. This is coming in from Colin Reich, motivational speaker, fitness enthusiast, creator.
Jacked, ripped,
so jacked.
hundreds of thousands of followers. This guy's the man.
Yeah, really, really happy to hear from him. So we'll hear from Colin.
I think that this is the year that the A10 gets 2 teams into the tournament because of one stupid, simple reason. St. Joe's doesn't lose to Richmond. Literally. When's the last time that happened? I hope that hasn't happened, actually. I don't know. I'm going to go look on Safari after this. But St. Joe's doesn't lose to Richmond. Oh, Richmond this, Richmond that. No one cares. St. Joe's to the natty.
Colin, hell yeah. He's a lax rat at heart, man. He's a lax rat at heart. We reached out. He reached right back out to us. He loves what we're doing. We love what he's doing. And he's ripped. I don't know if you've seen his stuff. But
He's jacked.
Brick shithouse.
It's funny, too, because I know all those St. Joe's guys. I know a bunch of the St. Joe's guys well, and they're thinking the same thing. It's the same mindset, dude.
They are going to play on the 17th of April. That's when that game's scheduled for, so they have not played yet.
I think it's the way you have to think of it is if Richmond beats St. Joe's the first time, goes to the conference championship and loses, they're going to get in that large bid, and we would get a automatic qualifier with the A10. I think that's the only way that you get 2. Maybe if they lose in the semis, again, without a loss, and maybe it's St. Joe's or it's UMass, a team that's kind of in the top 20, being their only loss on the year. I think that's the only way you get 2.
I mean, what if they lose to Notre Dame this weekend, and then they have 2 losses?
If they lose to...
They're a bubble team then.
Which is
they're
crazy.
Bubble.
Yeah.
They're a bubble team.
It's a fragile game they play.
Because I think they're number 5 in RPI. They're top 5 in RPI right now.
Probably.
They St. Joe's lost to High Point last week.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have put that in the shot clock to start the episode. But High Point, man, what the hell? That is out of nowhere. After an abysmal out of conference play to start the season, they've beaten St. Joe's and they're
3-0 in the A10.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next call we have from Scott Healy. He is our biggest critic, but also one of our biggest fans. So good to get his voice on here. Let's see what he has to say.
Hey, Patriot League Dad here. First time, long time. I DM'd you after the Corrigan interview because he pissed me off when he said he was going to do the Richmond Notre Dame game for free, and then he didn't even get the contract. Reminds me of the tariff checks I haven't gotten yet. You guys are doing great things. Keep it up. Coach Towers was right. Mid-majors are where I love to cheer. Go Richmond. Sorry for what they did to your boys Hobart, but stay number 1, and let's go Patriot League.
All right.
Thank you. He had some I won't say harsh words, but he was critical about our Booker interview. Thought we should have pushed the agenda a little more.
Did he come after us?
No, he was just like, hey, maybe ask some tougher questions, and I agree. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. Still sharpening the journalism axe, but yeah.
But yeah, I mean, do you want to take a second to talk about the Patriot League?
I mean, it is, it's funny. In preparation for this episode, I was actually listening back to our first season of College Lacrosse Gameday when Dan Arrestia joined us. And at the time, 2 years ago, Army was ranked number 1 in the country. And there was kind of this free-for-all as to who was the second best team in the Patriot League. And if you remember back to that season, like it was wide open. It feels like last year Army kind of ran through it until Colgate beat them. But it's his point was it's always like this in the Patriot League. Every year we're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Like, who's the best team? Like, this happens every single year in the Patriot League because you have to think that a lot of these kids in these Patriot League programs are probably, and this is true for most conferences, they're getting recruited by the schools in the conference. Like, that's kind of where they want to go. Like, if you're an Ivy League kid, you're an Ivy League kid. If you're an ACC kid, maybe you're looking at the ACC, Big Ten, and maybe. But I think the Patriot League is kind of right in the middle of the pack. Maybe you could go play up in some of these, Power 3 conferences. Maybe you're a day 1 starter in a lower tier conference. But in terms of the pool of talent that's in that league, I think it's very well distributed and some great schools in there too, like a Bucknell, Colgate, all great places academically. And what you're starting to see too is the bottom of the pack starting to catch up, which is the fun part about the Patriot League this year. We talked about Holy Cross a number of times, finally winning some games. Lafayette beat Army. So I think the bottom is starting to press up a little bit. So I think that's what's making the conference particularly exciting this year. But to Dan's point a couple of years ago, it's always like this.
Yeah. I opened my phone like a couple minutes before the episode, and I saw TLN posted in the Patriot League, there's a circle of parity.
Dude, no way.
Meaning every team. Yeah, look at that, Michael.
I pulled the same thing up.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, pretty much like every team, it's like Loyola's beat BU, who's beat Bucknell, Bucknell's beat Army, Army's beat Navy. That's not exactly what it is, but like that just shows the competitiveness in the Patriot League. Like Lafayette is 1-3 in the Patriot League, and like they're a team that could win the Patriot League playoffs. Like they're bottom of the table right now. Loyola's in first at 3-1, but like I could see Lafayette beating Loyola. You know what I mean? Like it's a pretty wild conference right now.
I'm excited for some of those CBS sports broadcasts that they do. The Patriot League has that partnership. I think Holy Cross and I forget who else, but I think that's the first one, the first CBS.
That's awesome.
Which is sick.
Yeah. Holy Cross playing on linear television.
Mm-hmm.
And they big detail with CBS Sports Patriot League broadcast, they put a microphone in the cage. So you can hear the ball hit the net. You can hear the communication on defense. It's a small detail, but it's just so professional and makes it so much better. Army Navy's going to be on there. One of my guys circled for a guest picker this year is Evan Washburn. Evan, if you're listening, we would love to have you on this show. He's a CBS analyst as college basketball, NFL. I saw him at an NFL game. I saw him at a Patriots game, actually. I was in like kind of the front row during warm-ups. I don't sit there. I was in the front row down there, and I saw Evan Washburn. And I was like, Delaware relax! And he kind of just was like, yeah, whatever. Like, kind of big-time me a little bit. But he loves lacrosse, and he's going to be the color commentator for a lot of big games on CBS Sports for the Patriot League down the stretch. I think we got one more call in, right, Brett?
Last call in we have is from the Cholo Laxer. We haven't heard from him in quite a while, so let's hear from him.
So I was just door dashing in my lowrider, cuz, and all of a sudden I realized I wasn't in Santa Monica no more. Anyway, I got this order at the LAX airport, and that got my wheels spinning, man, cause like LAX and LAX. So like, when are we gonna get some neutral site games out here in LA, cuz?
That's a great point from the Cholo Laxer. I mean, you got neutral site games in Georgia. You get them in Maryland. Like, I think the UNC, where was the UNC Harvard
North
game?
Carolina somewhere.
No, the UNC Harvard game.
It was in Ireland.
It was at
Severn,
Maryland.
Spalding. Yeah, Severn, Maryland. Yeah. Severn, Maryland at Spalding High School.
Point being, they're all on the East Coast. Like all the neutral sites are on the East Coast. I feel like there's been some California neutral sites. I feel like Notre Dame played out there.
There's been a couple Texas games. Like Notre Dame played in Houston, Texas.
They played at the Star, like the smaller Cowboys. You know how the Cowboys had that smaller facility? Cool. There was PL games there, but I remember vividly Georgetown, Notre Dame opened the season there, which is cool. It's a different site.
They
California,
should call it the LAX Classic.
Yeah, that would be pretty good.
Just get a big title sponsor.
I feel like that's a perfect location to do like the early season jamboree, if you want to call it that. Have like six to 8 games there in a weekend.
San Diego,
that'd be a good place to do it.
LA.
Yeah, it'd be perfect. It'd be perfect.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Well, a lot of great thoughts from our callers this week. I thought that was one of our best call-in sections. I thought the Quint one was AI, to be honest. It was just the cleanest call-in we've ever gotten. No surprise there. It just sounded so professional. But we're thankful for him calling in and a lot of other big names and personalities calling in some good takes. Don't forget to follow, all that stuff. Check out our store. We're going to get into our next segment brought to you by Hackies. Okay, Hack of the Week, and then Dan's coming on. Mike, you ready to rock?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, our Hack of the Week segment brought to you by Hackies. I keep picking this stick up. It's just what better compliment for a lacrosse stick than something you just can't put down? And a stick that you just keep looking at the pocket because of how nice it is, and you just want to ball on it and you want to play catch.
Yeah.
You know what a great use for Hackies is like playing in your living room. We don't really talk about that enough, but like softball, soft sticks, we sling that thing back.
Yeah, we got a decent sized living room. We live lavish.
I hate when it bounces off my mahogany storage for my china.
We've broken a couple pieces of china throwing the ball back.
Hackies is everywhere right now. Where we've created a little ecosystem going around. I feel like more people are picking up Hackies and promoting them, which is rightfully deserved. Excited to see how our partnership continues to grow. We got a lot of exciting stuff coming down the funnel, and hopefully for next year too. So
we sure do. Hack of the Week's a fun segment that highlights the defensive side of the ball. Last week it was Nick Menendez from Duke. Had an excellent game. He's a long stick midfielder there. Excited to find out who this week's Hack of the Week is. Michael, take it away.
Yeah, I'm sorry, buddy. If you're listening, I'm going to absolutely butcher your name. This is a pretty cool name, pretty cool last name. Perry DiBartolomeo?
Try it one more time, but with conviction.
Perry DiBartolomeo. Congratulations, Hack of the Week. If I butcher your name, I'm sorry. Let us know. Short stick D-Midi, Penn State, only a sophomore, Malvern Prep product, had 3 caused turnovers and 2 ground balls against Ohio State at Ohio State. For anyone who really knows the game, 3 caused turnovers for a short stick D-Midi is insane. Even if that's hard for close defensemen to get, that's more of like an LSM stat, if any. Very, very impressive. And only as a sophomore, too, on a really deep Penn State team. Had to shout him out. We need to send some love to short stick D-Middies out there. Just a quick note. I mean, short stick D-Middies are hacks of the week. Naturally, they're nail guns. It's the hardest position to play in lacrosse. It's like being a cornerback in the NFL is like my comparison for a short stick D-Midi. And they don't get much love. They don't get much of the shine. I do feel like it's a position that's growing in popularity. There's a lot of guys that are being top draft picks into the pros, and Aiden McGuire would be a name I just think would be a really, really likable, influential D-Midi. And all the guys before him, Zach Goodrich, not to get into a rabbit hole, but gotta show some love to short stick D-Middies. Congrats, Perry. You're a nail gun. Hack of the week.
Congrats, Perry.
Mike, another interesting stat about that family. So Perry's twin brother Luca is an LSM for Penn State, and their younger brother Roman is also another redshirt freshman D-Midi for Penn State. So 3 brothers on the team, 1 rope unit. Watch Perry play and watch Luca play the LSM. They are all over the field. They both played last year as freshmen. They are just like horses all over the place, right? Oh, I mean, what a family. Three rope unit guys, all brothers.
Hey, I mean,
that is really cool.
I mean, is that a dream come true?
That is.
They are the rope unit. Outside is the rope unit.
Yeah, we're the rope unit.
Hey, if only they had hackies. It's probably be a lot less crying and bruises in their lives.
You get to the house, you're like, where's the rope unit? Where's the rope? Oh, good job, Michael. Congrats to Perry. Now our interview with Dan Arrestia, huge personality in lacrosse. If you don't know him, we'll introduce you. He is the man. He's going to join for a quick chat, and we'll get into our Week 9 slate. We probably, I don't know how often you tune in, but we reference you and your show and your tweets a lot in the best way possible. Usually when we have new folks on, or whoever is our guest picker for the week on, there's kind of a subject that's obvious that we want to talk about, whether it's, so much that you've already covered in some capacity this season, whether that's, how early the season should start, whether that's attendance, streaming, whatever it might be. And typically we get around the horn finally to, okay, what is the state of college lacrosse at this moment in time? So that might be a big question to start off with, but just in your opinion, is the game healthy right now? We can just look a year backwards. Is the game in a healthier position today than it was a year ago, in your opinion?
For me, lacrosse is always going to be in a place where it makes me happy. I'm just one of those junkies who's it's always going to be good. We came into this season with this notion of it's a wide open year, and I think the year is delivered on it being wide open. I think there's no better case to be made that it's a wide open year than the fact that we have Richmond as the number 1 team in the country for the first time ever. We've got a first time number 1 in a year where it feels like a lot of teams can win it. But I would balance that with, and I've talked about this with other media folks who vote in the top 20 for IL every week, is that once you get past, for me anyway, once you get past 10, once you get to 10, 11 in the poll, you're like, look, I got to put somebody here. But I don't think this team is this can't be the 11th best team in the country. This can't be the 12th best team in the country. You know what I mean? So I think there's this crew at the top of the poll that where it is wide open, right? There's a lot of ways things could go. But I think once you get past that top 9, 10 teams, I'm looking at teams that I don't think have much of a chance. The fun game I was playing with somebody else recently was, give me all the teams that you would give a 1% chance, even a 1% chance of making Memorial Day weekend. And you start getting to a point where you're like, you know what? I don't even know if they have a 1% shot to get there. There's just something about them that's not going to do it. To the greater question, I think lacrosse is in a good spot, despite the fact that I just poo-pooed on, half the top 20. I think lacrosse is in a good spot, man. There's a lot of fun with how open it is. There's a lot of exciting players. You have a wide open race for Final Four weekend. I think you have a wide open race for the Tualatin. You have it's a great time to be following the game because the landscape is shifting so frequently. And for me anyway, that's one of the things that makes it healthy and makes it fun, is that as cool as it can be to have an undefeated Maryland season like a couple years ago, or last year when Cornell started feeling like a juggernaut, it was like, you kind of got to anoint somebody at a certain point. To me, the longer you can wait to do that, the better your season is going.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, just looking at the top 20, like, you kind of go down the list, right? The top 6 teams are all definite teams that could be playing on Memorial Day. Then you get to Harvard, and it's like, they haven't been there forever. But then Duke is at 8, and it's like they could absolutely win a national championship, right? Then you keep going down the list. I guess, if you have the top 20 memorized right now, like where does it stop? Does it stop at Georgetown or Maryland or Rutgers, and then like you got Virginia at 14? Like, does it stop there? Or does it keep going? Because, I look at Virginia, and it's like they're getting some motion right now. Like, they're a team that, could be there on Memorial Day weekend. You never know.
Yeah, I think it's, again, and that's like, do they have a 1% chance game? Like, do you give Virginia a 1% chance with their offense? Like, maybe, I don't know. But, for me, I think once you get to like, I'm trying to think of where I had teams this week. I think when you get to round 11, 12, and you start arriving at like Georgetown, it's crazy to say it, but like Maryland's playing playoff games right now. I'm not a believer in what kind of is going on with Maryland this year. I don't really buy Hopkins. Like, when you start getting towards that pack of teams that are kind of living there, I don't really see as many teams anymore that I think, yeah, that's a Final Four team for sure. I mean, I set me up for freezing cold takes here if you want to, but I think to your point, like there's those 6 or so at the top where you have like Richmond, Carolina, Princeton, Hughes. I put Penn State in there, even with the freshman goalie. Those kind of teams at the top of the list, I think, are clearly established themselves as contenders. Duke were doing it on talent because they played a bunch of cupcakes, and then Quint mentioned it in his top 20, and I said the same thing on my pod. Like, the best I've liked the look of Duke this year was in the game that they lost. I thought they really looked good against Syracuse, and I thought that was a winnable game for them. But, again, like, you're doing Duke, you're probably doing it on talent because they have, like I keep saying, like, Ben Johnson's built like Takeo Spikes. Like, it's unfair, the physical nature of that kid. So it's a wide berth at the top and then a drop.
Yeah.
You were saying earlier, have you been going to a good amount of games this year, getting around?
Yeah, I try and get to at least one a weekend, usually about one a weekend. So last weekend I went to West Point to catch Army play Lehigh. It's one of those ones. My son's at a fun age. He's getting ready to turn 8, but he likes just coming along for the ride and going to games. I said I was going. He was like, "Can I come?" I was like, "Sure, buy you a ticket on the way. You can come with me." So I took my son up to West Point for that. I've been up to Yale for a couple games, went to see them play Penn, went and saw them play a Tuesday night game against Marist. Cause again, like that's the caliber of junkie that I am when it comes to this stuff.
Hell yeah.
I went and saw them play Princeton. I had to go see Princeton, say hi to Jerry Price. Shout out to Jerry, one of the best SIDs in the business. But you go kind of see Yale a good amount. I'm going to go out to Adelphi this weekend because they're playing St. Anselm, and that game's going to be nuts. That's number 1 versus number 2 in Division 2, and Adelphi's got a midfielder who legit might be a PLL draft pick in Kyle Lewis. Like, it's, you go see that game. I get over to Sacred Heart a little bit. They're not too far from me. Fairfield is, pretty close by. Both those schools are like 20 minutes from me door to door. So I make my way to a good amount of games, and the high school season here, I know as like you go around the country, everybody's on like their 10th game, whatever. High school here is really just getting started now, or the public schools are just getting started now. As those kind of start ramping up, I'm sure I'll get out to, Darien, New Canaan, Staples, and my usual crew of public schools around me too.
Yeah. No, I asked because I wanted to get an idea of maybe what your highlight of the season has been so far, whether that's something that's happened in person. But one thing that we all listened to was your podcast with Paul Rabel. I thought that was an instrumental conversation for our sport for a number of different reasons, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great discussion. Do you want to talk about that conversation just for a second?
Sure.
I consider it a highlight of at least my season so far in following the sport because I think it was eye-opening for a lot of different reasons. I don't know. Before he goes,
we were talking about it a little bit in a couple episodes back, and like, in my opinion, that was one of the most important pieces of journalism or media that lacrosse has had in the last like year. You really kind of you don't hear a lot from Paul like in a real conversation when he's like being really truthful and honest and transparent about the league, and like I don't know, to me as a fan of the league and like a fan of him, like it was just great to hear, like, you know, he is a normal person and he's like really trying to push the PLL and doing everything he can, but like it's not an easy thing to do. And I think that gets ignored sometimes, where it's like, well, why isn't it bigger? Why isn't, you know, why don't we know how much guys are getting paid and all that stuff? And it's like, well, we're trying to get there, but we're not there yet. So I don't know if you want to talk about that, but it was.
Yeah, thanks so much. I appreciate the kind words about it. And again, like it's the second time I've talked to Paul on the pod, and I am always like, I look forward to that whenever I get the chance to do it. And honestly, shout out to Paul, because to your point, we don't always get to hear from him. When we do hear from him, sometimes it is on like, you know, he'll go talk to like CNBC or Sports Business Journal or, you know, a much bigger outlet, but he really does still make time for lacrosse outlets, for lacrosse media. And he makes sure to kind of touch that audience. My audience is not the Sports Business Journal audience, is not, you know, this lacrosse outlet's audience, that lacrosse outlet's audience. And he does try and make sure he can get out there in front of people and talk about the sport. So I think Paul deserves a lot of credit. I know he's a popular guy for the burners to take shots at, but he really does. To your point about like transparency being a thing, it's not all this obfuscation and things are hidden like because they want it to be that way. Like if you ask him a question, he's going to answer it, you know, and that's true for Paul, for Mike, for a lot of those guys. You know, I think the things that I really liked to talk to Paul about was, and it's one of the things I've talked about with him for years at this point, is the challenges that when it comes to the pro game, that sometimes people, I think, need to appreciate that there's a difference between, or I guess the way to come at this is that like what we're trying to do is audience growth, right? And audience growth is the biggest challenge. And in some sports, or in some instances, in the way you kind of bring more people, is you improve the product, right? You improve what's happening, in this case, on the field or anything. But, you know, I believe, and I know a lot of people who are fans of the sport believe that like the PLL product, like on the field, really doesn't need much in the way of improvement. Like you're seeing absolutely ridiculous shit on the field all the time, every week. And I had mentioned in my discussion with him, like I was standing next to him in Boston for a PLL game when Trey LeClaire, like, runs around his man and just rips this one-handed shot that like stings a corner. And we were just like, oh my God, that's ridiculous. And I'm just standing there like, I think we're getting to a point where that is table stakes to be a pro lacrosse player. Like it's awesome that he did that. I think you kind of have to be able to do that now to play. And that's where the product is. And so the challenge then becomes, all right, how do you grow audience if you like where the product is at? And we know the product is good enough to capture eyeballs. So the conversation around that, I always find to be interesting. And then I loved having the conversation with him about the fact that pro sports is AI proof. Like you're not going to have ChatGPT or anything else come up with, you know, Jeff Teat. AI cannot create what these guys do. So, you know, that is an interesting discussion. And then, you know, we did the fun exercise of him being, you know, talking to me when we're in the context of overlapping with the NLL and dealing with those schedule issues and coming at that also through the lens of player compensation, you know, telling about, all right, where do we want to be where do we want the sport to be in 10 years? And, you know, I'm telling him like within 10 years, I want to see a PLL player sign $1 million contract. I want to see a pro lacrosse player sign $1 million deal. And, you know, we talked about it at that point, and there was an interesting kind of subtext to the conversation around that, you know, related to this idea of, will guys have to choose between leagues? And if one of the leagues is offering guys $1 million deal, the choice is going to get made for them by the money. You know what I mean? Like, pretty easy. Like then it's not easy. Like we don't have to force anybody to do anything. We're going to pay our guys $1 million. And come on. Yeah. So, you know, I think there's a rising tide lifts all boats element to that. But, you know, every conversation I have with Paul about this stuff is always fascinating. And again, like as much as people love to take their shot at him and be like, how come we don't know more? How come you're not transparent enough? He's a guy where if you ask him a question, he's going to answer it. And the league will be forthcoming with his information if you ask for it. If you really want to know what a guy's getting paid, ask the guy. You know, it might not be something where you can go on the record with it, but I bet you can find it out. And it's not too crazy to just ask the questions. To just start asking coaches, start asking the league, start asking the players what you want to know. And a lot of these guys, if you're passionate about covering the sport in a serious way, like they'll engage with you and they'll talk to you and they'll understand that we're all here trying to just make things better. So yeah, I appreciate you know, bringing it up. And again, for the kind words, I love every chance I get to talk to Paul.
Yeah.
Oh, that was really enjoyable. I'll let you guys ask some questions. I'm hogging the mic a little bit on our side, but You said one thing when you joined us a couple years ago in our first season, which, by the way, you took a big risk in joining us in season 1 of College Lacrosse Game Day, which was 2 years ago, which we still remember and greatly appreciate. But you'd said something when we first spoke to you was it's a big difference between being a friend of people in the lacrosse world and then being respected by those people. And as a journalist, that's a tough balance. You've seemingly done both with Paul Rabel, which is pretty amazing. I do agree to your one comment to some extent about the product. And I'm talking about people like Brennan O'Neill. Like when I watch Brennan O'Neill, it gives me faith in our sport flourishing because he does things on a regular basis that's just like, oh my God. I think about his face dodge against, I think it was Utah, and I think we remember the play, but it was unbelievable and just like, wow, like that was incredible. And he does stuff like that on a regular basis. But my one pushback, this is my biggest critique of the PLL. I think at the beginning of the season, in those first few weeks, it looks kind of like a men's league. And I think it's sloppy because they haven't been practicing nearly as much as college guys are. As a lacrosse fan, you just got done watching the college season you just watched throughout May, which is really the best lacrosse there is. It's the accumulation of a year of work together with college programs who, one gets named on Memorial Day the champion. So it seems like, at least from my perspective, there is a bit of a drop in the quality of those first few weeks of the season because you're getting guys who might be out of shape.
Yeah.
Is that a cold take? Do you agree with that?
No, I don't think that's a cold take. I would even give you one of Paul's kind of talking points on this. Some of that is due to the fact that it's still not a league where 100% of the players are full time. A lot of these guys are still doing their job during the week, and maybe they get to hit the wall, they get to work out. But some of these guys have high powered jobs where they don't have a lot of hours for other things. Paul had said, I think I'm going to get the numbers right here. I think when the league launched, 70% of the players were not full time. So like 30% of the guys I think were full time. I think I have that right. And now it's 50-50, right? So now you're at about a point where 50% of the guys are doing pro lacrosse. That is their job. And I think like it's one of the reasons where when the season starts and everyone's like, can you believe how much this rookie's like killing it right away? The PLL's like, yeah, I can. The dude's been doing nothing but playing lacrosse for the last 6 months, for the last 4 years. He's just dialed in with a bunch of other pros on the field in some cases. And so, yeah, his stick's tight. He's up to speed because these guys play at high speed in college. And it doesn't surprise me when a rookie comes in and is great right away because it's all they've been doing every day on a regimented schedule for the last several months versus maybe, to your point, some of the guys where it's like, they get to do this part of the time and that number is coming down. And then some of the guys will probably show up, with maybe not in the best of shape. Maybe their stick's not as dialed as it needs to be, but I would say I think that's still changing. I think those first few weeks though, training camp is short and, you only have so much time to get your stick and everything and ready. If you show up to training camp and you're not in great shape and your stick's not dialed, like you're already way behind. And, depending on who your coach or GM is, you might be out of a job after a week. It's something that I think is evolving, but I don't think that's too cold of a take.
Yeah. I'd love to go through a couple quick hitter questions.
Sure.
Just to you're going to have to make a decision and then we'll check back in a month or two and see.
Love these.
See how accurate we are. Okay. Number one, who wins the FCAC this year?
Darien.
Okay. Who's the number one ranked high school program in the country at the end of the year?
The Garden City.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
Garden City.
Okay.
I think if they're not the number one team right now, they're in the conversation or could be. I know Radnor had a big win early. The FCAC had in Inside Lacrosse's public school rankings had 4 teams in the top 10. And I think those 4 teams could all realistically be there still in the top 10 after even if they all beat each other up. But I think the best public school, pound for pound, the best as of now, if you ask me, is Garden City.
Who are your 4 Tewaaraton finalists?
Joey Spallina, Brady Wambach. Wambach can fly. It's a weird year. I'll tease now. I'm writing something and I'm calling it the Tewaaraton Eliminator. So I went through the last 20 years of Tewaaraton winners, or the last 19 winners, because there was a year with that one. But I went through and I dug up. I was like, what was your regular season record? What was your conference record? How far did you go? Where'd you finish in points per game, goals per game, assists per game, everything. And I did that for every player. And then I also charted, of course, their position, the conference they played in, everything. And then I've taken everybody that's currently on the Tewaaraton watch list. And if you don't meet the criteria of one of those winners, I eliminate you. So You're not winning it if you're a defenseman. You're not winning. Sorry, Brady Wambach. You're not winning it. You're a face-off guy. A face-off guy's never won it, so you're eliminated. You know what I mean? Like a guy from the CAA has never won it. Sorry, Mikey Weishar, you're eliminated. And I am doing this over the course of the season and hoping that by the end of the regular season, before we get into the tournament, you get into like the actual award, I have eliminated it down to one guy and I can just scientifically declare who the Tuart winner will be. But finalists, I like Spalina. If you want to, I would maybe put Ben Johnston in there, depending on how Duke goes the rest of the way, because he's been so insanely good. And then I would put Wambach in there, and I think Duffy probably belongs in there too. Duffy and Wambach both are just such game warping players that they got to be in there. If Harvard stays hot, maybe you can put Spidell in there as a little dark horse.
Yeah, right. All right, last one. What's your
social security number?
What's your?
It's the last 9 digits of pi.
They don't exist. Okay, what is your Memorial Day prediction?
My Final Four?
Yes.
I will take Q's. I will take Princeton. I will take Carolina, and I will take. I need one that's like less safe, right? I'll take Penn State.
So no Richmond.
I'm gonna say Richmond gets upset. I don't know. Like I've realized I've snubbed Richmond in the last 2 questions. Like Aiden O'Neill could actually be a Tuart finalist, and Richmond could totally be a Final Four team. The fun thing with Richmond is that they don't take anyone for granted, or you know what I mean? Like they don't look past anybody ever, because they still have this like mid-major mentality where, you know, we have to get an AQ because we're not going to get in that large because of our conference. We have to make sure we beat everybody. We got to stay dialed every week. And you can see it because they just run it up on everybody every week. But I'll say Richmond gets picked off by a blue blood or something like that on the way. I'll be Debbie Downer.
All right. That's all I got. If anybody else has any other
besides online banking passwords or anything too sensitive. Hey, Mike, I'll pass it to you before we get into the slate if you have anything for Dan.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it too much because we don't talk about the NLL. We actually never have on the show one time, I don't think. Now I'm thinking about it. But, Dan, listen to your podcast. Saw a lot on, X about, the Philadelphia Wings shuttering their doors. And, Jordy from Barstool wrote an article about it. He just published, I heard a lot of bad things about ownership. We don't have to get into that. The one thing I want to get into with you is, do you think there is a chance they do go to Bridgeport, Connecticut?
Oh my God, please. I don't think there's actually a chance, but I would love it so much. I mentioned on my pod, so Bridgeport just renovated this arena where it was going to be where the Bridgeport Islanders were going to play, and now they're going to Hamilton. So we have a 10,000 seat indoor arena, and we need to put things in it. I'm like, can we put some lacrosse in it, maybe? Can we get an unboxed game, NLL? Brett Fruit, if you're listening, please give me something in Bridgeport. I don't think there's actually a chance. I know the word was out basically today that it sounds like Trenton or maybe even Lehigh Valley somewhere might be the new home. I was talking to some folks because there were some Canadian locations that were kind of in the mix as like, in air quotes, finalists for where the Wings might end up. But I think, I look at that roster and I'm like, that crew's got to stay in the States. You got to keep Brennan and Sowers and those guys, keep them in America somewhere. Find a way to keep them, if it's Jersey, if it's somewhere else in PA, whatever, but would love to make sure that those guys stay in the States for American fans to latch onto and start going to more box games. I would take Boston. I'll take anything close to me. I'm fresh out of NLL games that are anywhere near me in Connecticut. The Riptide are gone, and Philly was like the next closest. Albany was kind of close if you want to go a couple hours there, but now I got to go to like Buffalo, Rochester. I got nobody in the ballpark for me anymore.
Buffalo's probably worth the trip.
Buffalo is worth, having made the trip. It's worth the trip.
Yeah.
It's worth the trip.
I don't know.
That's awesome.
I don't know if you have any affiliation with Nutmeg Lacrosse. They're an X account. It says College Lacrosse. They just cover Connecticut.
I don't know them at all. They're new to me. I only saw them for the first time.
But they were loud about Bridgeport too, so I was like, I got to bring this up.
I would love it. I mean, I'm on board with you, Nutmeg. Me and you, let's join forces and get NLL across to Bridgeport. I wish I could say I think it would happen, but like that arena would be great for it, man. The Foo Fighters are playing there. Like the Foo Fighters can play there. You can get an NLL game in there. Come on.
Hell yeah. Trenton's
interesting. Great.
I'm from New Jersey. I would love lacrosse to succeed in New Jersey. They'd be my team. No doubt.
Right.
I live in Syracuse now, but Trenton's tough, man. That's a tough. The area-wise tough, and also northern New Jersey is like the hotbed of lacrosse.
Yeah.
And Trenton's south.
Yeah.
Like that's like an hour south of where I lived, and I'm like kind of in the hotbed. So I don't know. I think they really need to do the research before they make that decision.
Yeah, I think it's
that's my take.
I hope they wind up somewhere in the States. I hope it's somewhere near me. But yeah, it's sad about the Wings. Last home game is April 11th, and I'm computing, do I make the trip and try and go to their last home game or not? That's shaping up to be one of those days where I got to make a tough call, because you got Harvard at Yale that day, you got Army Navy that day, and now I got the Wings last home game that day. I might try and do some kind of sicko move and see like Army Navy in the afternoon, and then hustle to Philly from West Point to try and make it for a night game and see the Wings close it out or something like that. Who knows? But
wow.
That's a trip.
You need, I think, those like Ray-Ban glasses with a camera on them. If you make a trip like that, that has to be documented.
I did it once a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago, I went to Army Loyola at noon, and I went from there to Hofstra to see Hofstra, Delaware at like 3:30 or something like that. I caught like most of that game, and then that ended, and the Riptide were playing across the street at 7. So I went 1, 2, 3 in a row and did all 3 games in the same day.
Wow.
2 mid-majors to an NLL game. That is why we will never compete with you, Dan. That is why you are the best. You are the fucking best. All right, let's get into this slate, man. We're fired up for this. You do not have Notre Dame versus Richmond as one of your games, but we want to hear your opinion on it for sure. It's obviously the game of the weekend, so we'll get to that. The way we do our slate on a weekly basis, so we play the game that we've created called CLG Pick Em, powered by East Coast Eyes. So essentially, have you played along this season, Dan?
Yeah.
Have you checked it out?
Yeah, I followed along a little bit. Earlier in the year, I was checking it out more. I hardly ever do like I pick every game every week on my pod, but that's the extent of my pick 'em.
Okay. You might have to create a channel through your podcast or something. We'll work something out. We'll make something happen. Essentially what it is, for our listeners who don't know, we have a weekly game where 10 games are featured. You get to pick the outright winner and the winner against the spread for the 10 games that we choose. If you get the winner right, you get 10 points. If you get the winner right, you get 5 points. If you get the winner against the spread right, you get 10 points. There's a possible 195 points you can get through bonuses. Essentially, every week, East Coast Eyes provides a prize for the national winner on a weekly basis. You can make leagues with your friends. A lot of fun ways you can do it. This is all coming to a head for our tournament bracket challenge that we will announce very soon. But let's go through our 10 games we have featured on the Pick'em app this weekend. We're going to start with you, Dan. Virginia at Duke, games on Saturday at noon.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of a sudden this game has a ton of juice, right? Virginia's looking scary all of a sudden. They won 3 in a row, right? Beat the Irish last week. And even before that, they have the OT loss to Maryland. That's a winnable game. And then, the Towson loss is the one that really still kind of stinks. I know the Hopkins loss is bad, but you can also go look and be like, you were up 9 goals on Hopkins. You've managed to find a way to lose. But UVA all of a sudden is a little bit of a scarier team. I think John Schroeder being back in the lineup makes a world of difference for that defense. It's night and day without him there. When he wasn't healthy, that was like they couldn't guard anything. And now that he's back in the lineup, you see he causes turnovers in the ride. He's physical. He wins a matchup. He's quietly just one of the key pieces for this team. I think for me, it's another one where I want to kind of see more from Duke and see them play a quality opponent. I think we learned a lot about Duke against Syracuse. I think that was a winnable game for them. I think the Charlie Johnson matchup is a fun one because it's where do you put him? Which Millen does he guard, basically? I had said it going into the Irish game when the same kind of question about like a Sean Light, but I feel like the top cover guy needs to get the Brendan Millen assignment right now, as I just see him as the better distributor, the better feeder, the better kind of quarterback of things. And as much as McCabe can be a dodger and a creator kind of for himself, the way Brendan can kind of create for others, to me, makes him more worthy of the top cover matchup. So, where do you put Charlie Johnson is fun. What do you do with Aiden McGuire? You can have him guard anybody, but, he's naturally going to guard midfielders, and Virginia doesn't run any. They play 6 attackmen sometimes. So there's a lot of little fun kind of matchup games within here. I wouldn't be shocked if Virginia won this game. I also wouldn't be shocked if Duke won it by like 8 goals. If it just like Ben Johnston can't be guarded by anybody, Max Sloat does a ton of damage and all that. There's the Colsey Bowl aspect of this with Kyle and Ryan on either sides. But to me, I'm thinking I might just take the points here, just take the goals here and take the 1.5 and go with UVA and just hope for some fun. That's kind of the way I see it.
Love that strategy.
Yeah, might be a Balsamo revenge game. Who knows? But yeah, it's a good take. I agree with you. Like, I could see Duke blowing this game out, or I could see Virginia winning. Like, Virginia needs one more solid win on their schedule to like really cement themselves as like, a contender. And who knows, this could be it. So I like that take.
How many ACC wins do they need for at large? Even conversation at large. They have to win 3, 4.
At least three. At least 3.
Okay.
And so, that means they're going, it's a tall order. By saying at least 3, it means they have to go at least 2 out of 3 against Duke, Hughes, North Carolina. I don't know if anybody's doing that, let alone Virginia.
You got it. 2 wins probably gets you into the ACC tournament, though, so you get another chance at it.
Yeah. I mean, no AQ, so you get a chance to, keep trying improving your resume in the ACC tournament. And if you win the ACC even without the AQ, I'm sure the committee will be like, that's got to be worth something. So, it puts you in the conversation, but I think they need to win at least 3 ACC games here.
Yep. We'll see if they can get that done. Hayden, going to you now. Denver is a 2-goal favorite at Villanova. Games at noon.
Yeah, interesting game. So both teams are 4-5. Denver had a bad loss to Georgetown last week. I think they lost 17-5. But Georgetown's a good team, and it's interesting because they played Duke close, they played Cuse close, both to 1-goal games. So I don't really know what happened against Georgetown. I mean, maybe Georgetown just showed up and was ready to go. But it's interesting because Denver goalie played well, Grayson Manning, who's one of the best in the country. They split on faceoffs, and they still ended up losing by 12. So that tells me that Denver's offense just isn't producing how they should be. And, it's kind of crazy to say because, they have the guys to do it. Like, Cody Milosky is a guy that, had a lot of preseason hype and had a good season last year. And he just hasn't really been producing, I think, the way they probably hoped he would. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Denver being a 2-goal favorite against Villanova. Villanova is a very streaky team. They beat Penn State, but they've also had some bad losses. So I don't know where Denver stands right now. They've lost the last 4. I kind of see Villanova winning this game. I do think Denver is still going to be a contender in the Big East. I still think it's going to be a Denver-Georgetown Big East final, but, I don't know where they are right now. I don't know what their confidence level is right now. A win here would be big for them, but I don't see them doing it. I think Villanova is going to cover this game and probably win this game too.
This is the confidence thing with Denver is a great point. You think about a team who missed out on the Big East tournament last year and how much that stung, especially how it ended losing big to Marquette at the end of the season. I think that's a great point. I don't know what their confidence level is. I don't think they feel like they're Denver, a team that won a national championship not long ago. Michael, going to you. Army, 4.5-goal favorite at Bucknell. Games at noon. The Patriot League, man.
We've talked about the Patriot League so much.
Too much.
Too much. I'm just.
Can you talk about the Patriot League too much, or is it no?
I don't think at this point this year there should be any spread over 2.5 goals in the Patriot League. Seeing a 4.5-goal spread in the Patriot League right now is telling me to absolutely hammer the opposite side. And I haven't bet all year because I have no fucking money. But listen, Bucknell is sneaky. It's not the old Bucknell. They're sneaky. They just beat Lafayette in overtime. And they have wins over Colgate and Lehigh in conference too. Those are good wins. And I know everyone's looking at this like Army. I do think Army pulls out the win, but not by 4.5. And I think it's a good offense versus good defense thing. Bucknell has a pretty good offense. They can score. They're 12th in the country in points per game, but they're going against a good Army defense. They're 9th in scoring defense, and you gotta score on Sean Byrne, and you got to get past big number 99, John Sullivan. So Army's also won the last 5, which is momentum. I'm going to go Army to win, Bucknell to cover. Simple enough.
When you were on last time, Dan, Army was ranked number 1 in the country. And the last 2 years, obviously, we've had this. There's kind of the expectation. And if you look at the percentage chance that they get an at-large bid down the stretch, which we commonly look at as the season comes along, it's, okay, who's going to get the at-large? What's the picture look like? And you're kind of just like, yeah, Army should be in. They should be good. Last 2 years, they lose late. They don't get it. I have a theory that this kind of helps them. Now they're not doing math and saying, oh, do we get an at-large? It's you win the Patriot League or you go home. Do you agree? Or
yeah, I think they need the AQ. I think they need the AQ. With 3 losses now, or no, they have, how many losses does Army have? 2 or 3?
Something like
Army
that.
has 3 losses. They lost to Lafayette.
Yep.
They lost to BU, and they lost to North Carolina. All close by a grand total, I think, of 4 goals across 3 games. But I mean, also, man, you tell me there's a 4.5-goal spread in the Patriot League game. Don't even tell me who the teams are. I'm just taking the 4.5 goals. But Army is, I think, at the midway point of the year, before they had lost the Lafayette game, you were maybe starting to think about it. But even then, you were doing all right, they beat Yale, they beat Rutgers, they beat UMass. they beat Michigan. They kind of need those teams to have better seasons. Like, they needed Yale to like pick their game up from where they were a year ago. They needed Rutgers, who's like, and right now Rutgers is kind of helping them out with it. So, but they were in a place where like they got some okay wins, and then they needed those wins to turn into better wins, courtesy of the performances of the teams they beat, which is just a weird spot to be in. So I think, Army is AQ or bust. And I also am a believer in, and the first person I ever heard put this out there, I think was Quint, but that the service academy teams fade more as the year goes on, because if you're a student at West Point, things like sleep or adequate amounts of sleep and recovery are just not even close to the same as you would get if you were not a service academy student. Like if you're at West Point, you're probably not getting enough rest given like all the other rigors that go on, being at that school outside of being a lacrosse player. You've got the academics, but you've got all like, the officer training stuff going on too. Adequately getting your body right on a week-to-week basis is just a lot harder for service academy kids, which would explain why sometimes they tend to fade later in seasons. But I think Army, they need to win the Patriot League. The Patriot League is going to wind up being a one-bid league, and that one bid, I think, could go to any one of like 8 different teams right now.
Yeah, that's exciting. I love the Patriot League.
It's the best.
We talk about it. We talk about it too much. Go, Dan. This one's going back to you. Penn State 2.5 goal favorite at Hopkins. Shocker. Games at noon.
Unbelievable. I had to check the watch twice for that one. But look, Penn State beat up Ohio State a week ago. Won 13-6. Right. Ohio State. Obviously, the offense is struggling there. To the point where, like, when Penn State went up 4-0, I was like, I think this might be over. I don't think Ohio State has a 4-0 run in them right now. Like, I just don't think that's something they're capable of these days. But Penn State's been getting it done without Hunter Aquino for a lot of time now. Arguably their top offensive weapon, not in the lineup, and still getting it done. I think Iantuono is an awesome freshman. The freshmen kind of all over the college lacrosse landscape this year have been really, really electric. I think they're Preston Hawkins in net, again, freshman goalie usually is going to make people a little bit concerned, but I think you see him make fewer freshman mistakes every week, and his play has been a lot better lately. With Hopkins, I feel like I've just seen them give things away a little too often for me to trust them in any situation right now. Like I went down I saw them play Syracuse at Homewood, and they were blowing clears at the beginning of that game like it was preseason. Like it was like we haven't practiced this yet. And I think you saw Hopkins last week against Rutgers, like snatch defeat from the jaws of victory in that game, right? They're running the clock out and they just sail a pass out of bounds that didn't need to be thrown in the first place. And before you know it, Rutgers is going the other way and we're in overtime and game over. So I think I just see some of this situational stuff from Hopkins that's just not sharp. And I also see that when Collison isn't doing a ton for them, when he's not doing a lot of damage on the score sheet, that they can really struggle. And I think, you'll see Alex Ross delete somebody for Penn State. Alex Ross is playing for a Schmeiser Award, I think, at this point. He's been that good. So to me, I feel like this is an easy one for Penn State. I know they've had some weird games. The Villanova loss is the one people point to, is like, how in the world did that happen? It happened because they played in Haluba Hall. And if they play a game in that venue, then it's a grain of salt the rest of the season. Those games just don't count. It's a black hole in there. Nobody knows what's going to happen. So those games I tend not to think as much about. The Navy loss is a little more alarming, but I think Penn State is, I told you a few minutes ago, I consider them as like a Final Four caliber team. So I think this is one where they could roll. So I'm all over Penn State minus 2.5 here.
Wow. Hopkins, man. It's just
they're so close so far at the same time,
Demoralizing loss. Demoralizing. You forget because of the highlight on the Rutgers side to go from GLE to, we're talking obviously about the game last weekend, to go from whistle blows out of a timeout, GLE up the field, goal. You forget about what happened to get us to that point, which was just a pass thrown out of bounds that didn't even need to be thrown.
I can't even remember who threw it, and even if I did remember, I wouldn't put him on blast. But just run, dude. Just run. Just keep running along the end line. And if you're going to lose it, roll it into the corner and bail. Sailing a pass like that. I was like, what are we doing? But
when you play at Hopkins, though, you're going to get called out when you do shit like that. So that's why I went to Hobart. Hayden, back to the Patriot League. BU at Loyola. Games at noon.
Yep, another Patriot League game. BU is 5-4. Loyola is 6-4. Both teams are 3-1 in the Patriot League. this is a interesting game. Like, two interesting teams. Both teams have played tough schedules. Both teams are talented. Both teams have great coaching staffs. You know, Loyola was a team we talked about early on with Justin Ward joining their coaching staff. Like, we really thought that he was going to be a guy who was just going to like uplift their offense, and he has done that to a degree, especially based off how they've been the last couple of years. But I like BU winning this game. I think, you know, BU's a team we don't talk about a whole lot, but they play a good schedule. I think their coaching staff is great. I think they just really instill like this gritty culture there with Jack Rowlett and Ryan Poley, and then also Mike Morgan, who was the former Merrimack coach who joined the staff this year. I like the way BU plays. I think on last week's episode, you know, when they beat Army, like that BU Army game, BU was a grittier team, which is, you know, not a thing that you would normally say when BU plays Army. Like, Army's like the definition of grit. And I think BU's a really gritty team. Timmy Shanahan, a guy you know well, Dan, he's a stud, and he really carries that offense. So I like BU winning this game. I think these are two teams that are going to be in the Patriot League tournament. And it's a matchup that could happen again in the near future. But I like BU winning this one and kind of cementing themselves at the top of the Patriot League for at least another week.
Yeah, I don't have a spread because we're in Boston, so we can't see it. But I'd be interested. I'd say BU's maybe a goal and a half, 2.5.
It's 2.5. I can help you out there.
Okay,
thank you.
It's BU minus 2.5.
Dan, Timmy Shanahan, right? Like, he's a Connecticut public school guy. Is
sort of. It's a Fairfield prep guy.
Okay, it doesn't really count, but sort of. Is he, like, do you see him taking a similar career path as like Chris Gray? You know, stud at BU for the first 2 years, and then, you know, all these schools in the transfer portal are going to be, you know, dying to have him. Is he a guy that leaves BU, you think, or is he a Terrier for life?
I think if he was going to leave, he would have done it already, because his door was getting kicked in after his freshman year. There were Big Ten ACC schools calling him up saying, come play for us, please. And, you know, BU convinced him to stay. I think if he was going to go, he would have gone already.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fair point.
I want to see the how much money was being offered. Still yet to figure all that out. Dan, maybe you have some more intel there in terms of the amounts being offered. Mike, going to you. This is the big one. Notre Dame versus Richmond. We have Richmond right now as a 1.5 favorite. Game is at 12:30.
I mean, Richmond, we've already talked about it, but it's like Richmond is favored against Notre Dame, and Richmond is the number one team in the country playing the previous number one team in the country, Notre Dame. It's just insane to me. It's crazy to hear that Richmond's minus 1.5. It just is. It feels like, as fans, feels like we did it. We made this stream happen. It felt like it got so loud that ACC Network was like, we need to broadcast this.
You did.
We're gonna get eyeballs. Like, everybody and their mother was like, we need to watch this game. So at 12:30 on Saturday, everyone's gonna be watching this game, which is super exciting and good for the sport.
Yes.
The way I see this game is two very, very balanced teams. Defensively, it feels like is both of these teams' strengths, at least in my eyes, especially for Notre Dame. They just have studs. I mean, two elite cover guys. You know, Notre Dame has Sean Light, you know, former Schmeiser winner. I've talked about Hunter Smith a lot on Richmond, another elite cover guy. And then you got two great goalies in Thomas Riccardelli and Connor Knight on Richmond. And then, you know, short stick middies, LSMs. I mean, they have depth on the defensive end on both sides of the field. Will Donovan and Jack Pilling, to name two more names. I think it's going to come down to the wire. I was kind of shocked on how Notre Dame's offense looked against UVA. I mean, people have been shitting on UVA's defense all year, to say frankly, for good reason. I know UVA got their guy back and whatnot, but I don't know, they just didn't impress me. And I think Notre Dame or Richmond's defense is way better than UVA's. And then I just feel like Richmond's offense is just a well-oiled machine. We know the names now, but they're not like Notre Dame 5-star recruits. They're not like that, but they play together and it's impressive and it works. So I do think Richmond wins this game. I cannot take Notre Dame to lose by more than two goals. I don't know why I can't do it. So I'm going to take Notre Dame to cover and Richmond to win. I think it's going to be that tight, but it's very exciting.
Dan, I got to get your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, you know, I think the spread is interesting because it's Richmond minus 1.5, but it's plus money to take that. It's plus 130. Mm-hmm. They're daring you to take Richmond minus 1.5. and you're giving away, it's minus 166 to take the Irish, getting a goal and a half. To the value, as it were, again, I don't bet, but if you do, do so responsibly. The value, as it were, is tricky. On the money line, it's a pick 'em. So, it's. I think your point about the Irish offense against Virginia is a good one. I didn't love what I saw from them in that game either. I feel like when we've been, and as you said, like pretty fairly shitting on the UVA defense most of the year, the thing about it that wasn't any good was that they didn't play great team defense, that they would just get like cooked off ball all the time, or that, they didn't recover particularly well. And it was like pretty basic, like dodge, pass ahead, pass, shot, goal. And I didn't think the Irish did a good job of testing that. They dodged like a matchup to score a lot, but didn't make UVA play great team defense a lot. Didn't try him at all out of invert sets. Didn't try him at all out of some of the wing dodges where I feel like Jeffrey is particularly great. So, I wanted to see them kind of try the UVA defense in more ways than they did. That said, like I love, my favorite thing about Richmond, it was more true, I think, last year than this year, but they play like the kid showing up, the new kid in school who's going to fight the bully to let everybody know he's not somebody you can fuck around with. You know what I mean? Richmond is not afraid of the fact that your jersey says Notre Dame or Duke or Syracuse or whatever, and ours says Richmond. Like, we're going to come and give you everything we got. We're going to fight you. You're going to get all you can handle, and they're just going to bring it all the time. I think Richmond's depth and versatility on offense with the amount of different guys that can beat you helps them. And I think you've seen in past games, sometimes it takes them a little while, but they will eventually find the thing that their offense can do that your defense can't handle. Sometimes it happens in the first quarter. Sometimes it happens in the third and the fourth quarter, but they've found it at every game all year. So I think, to me, I would kind of tilt towards Richmond a little bit here. I love that this game is neutral site. Again, we're pumped that we get to stream it. It kind of made a light of it, but it really is worth mentioning just how loud people got and demanded to watch it, and how big of a reason that is for why this happened. Don't let anyone poo-poo the fact that we all went nuts on social media and they actually ended up streaming it afterwards. Like, that mattered. That really was a difference maker. So demanding more from the sport is always good, but I love that they're playing in Chicago. I love that venue at Northwestern. I think this game's going to be awesome, but I kind of lean Richmond money line in this one, and I would also say a tight one.
Yeah. It's we got to win, right?
Yeah,
we got to win.
Just want to point out from the media team, we do have credentials. So our content guy, JP, who's looming in the background, one of our producers and our content manager, he will be on the field. So really exciting times for College Lacrosse Game Day. We have a media presence on the field now, so excited to see what comes out.
Love that.
We sent him a couple throwaway cameras, so we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what he captures.
He's gonna be filming on his flip phone, so we'll see what the content looks
Love
like.
it.
Get some Polaroids. All right. Next, we have 4 games left. Let's do this, Dan. Going back to you. This is a big game, and let's not let the Notre Dame Richmond game, put a cloud over the rest of the beautiful slate that we do have, and we've already covered. But Syracuse at UNC, Tar Heels are a goal and a half favorite. Game is at 2:00.
I think this is a fun one. I think if you watched Carolina last week, you should be like alarmed. You know what I mean? Like Owen Duffy with 7 goals, but really, Brady Wambach just completely broke that game. Completely wrecked the game. Like, he changed everything about it by himself. It was so unfair that Harvard was out of that game early and with no means to get back in it because of just how good Wambach was. And so I immediately, with that in mind, start looking at the face-off spot where I say, Q's has Johnny Mullen, who's a good face-off guy, against some of the best in the country this year. He's like about kind of 50-50-ish with Henry Dodge. He was 50% against Duke a week ago. Right around 50% against like a Joe Hobart at Hopkins, below 50 against McMeekin at Princeton, and about 50-50 against Harvard, against a Harvard team that Brady Wambach just went like, roughly 140% against. I feel like that's a thing. And then other people have mentioned Mullen violates on faceoffs remarkably frequently, as much as anybody in the country. And whenever that happens, it means Brady Wambach is going to go out there to take the next faceoff against a backup faceoff guy, which is just like, I don't even know if you don't just bother sending a poll out or something else to try and be disruptive. I look at the faceoff spot as big there. And then I think Q's needs to, as I say it every week, needs to play clean. They are kind of a penalty heavy team. Coming into the Duke game, I have to check and see if it's still accurate. But the only teams who had given up more extra man opportunities than Q's were, I think, Iona and Queens or something like that. Iona and Quinnipiac. And then I know it was Q's right after that. He would have given up like 34 extra mans going into the Duke game. If they spend the day on man down, Carolina will take that and win the game with it. So I think Carolina has some interesting pieces on offense where you wonder about how Q's deploys. Again, Q's has kind of this cool luxury of a lot of teams have a number one cover guy that deletes somebody, and Q's has two that are interchangeable that don't care who they guard. In Billy Dwan and Riley Figueres. Dwan will go and guard the physical guy if that's what you want, because he's got the bigger body. Figueres, his footwork tends to be a little better. He's better with angle play, so he can guard the change of direction guys. You could easily mix that up and put Dwan on Duffy and feel okay. Could be Figueres on Duffy and you'd feel okay. So the way they deploy against Duffy, maybe even show him both guys to try and keep him uncomfortable. The Q's defense, I think, deserves some credit for how good they've been. The defensive midfield for Q's is still a place where I have some concern about their shorties, and kind of question mark shorties against an all freshman midfield line is just like something that I won't have a take about who wins it, but it'll be fun, man. It'll be a good time. So, the line at 1.5, this is one where I tend to tilt Carolina's way a little bit. This is not in the cozy confines of the Dome, where Q's is very much a different team and a better team. When they go on the road, sometimes things are a little dicey for them. So I'm going to take Carolina in that one.
Love it. I love it. The complete walkthrough there was great. And the environment's a big factor. And if you didn't realize how big a factor Brady Wambach was at this point in the season, I hope that analysis helped out, because he is no, seriously, like because we don't get to watch every moment of every game. Somehow you were able to, Dan, and seeing or knowing the impact of a faceoff guy is critical for all fans to realize. That's going to be a great game at 2:00 on Saturday. Hayden, going to you. Cornell, 2.5 goal favorite at Penn. Game is at 3:30.
Yeah, this is a good game. So Cornell's coming off a tough loss to Yale, and Penn is kind of rolling, right? They beat Yale 9-7 2 weeks ago and then beat Dartmouth last week. Penn's in an interesting spot, right? They had a couple, not bad losses. Like, they lost to great teams early on the season. They lost to Georgetown, UNC, Syracuse, and then Harvard most recently. So those are some pretty good losses, and they were all pretty tight. The thing I love about Penn is Taylor Ray. And, he's a guy that we've talked about for a while, but he just knows how to get a program into the NCAA tournament, right? He's done it at St. Joe's the last couple of years. And I just feel like, he came into Penn. It was kind of a broken program. The athletic department spent a lot of efforts getting him there. It was a great hire for them. They're not 9-0, but they're 5-4, and they have some quality losses and some quality wins. And I think they're kind of on the rise, and they have been gradually the last couple weeks. So just looking at Penn's schedule, right? They have Cornell, Princeton, and Brown left. They're currently 2-1 in the Ivy League. I think they have to win 2 of those next 3. I think they beat Brown, and then they either have to beat Cornell or Princeton. And they get Cornell at home this week, coming off a loss. And, I think they win this game. I mean, it's crazy to say, but, I think Penn is certainly capable of winning this game. Right, if you go back in history, the last 9 games, Penn has won 6 of them, and that's including last year when Cornell won the national championship. They lost to Cornell that year, but in the last 10 years or so, Penn has kind of owned this matchup. So this is a hot take. This is kind of like my Rutgers beating Hopkins pick last week, but I think Penn's going to beat Cornell and get themselves into the Ivy League tournament and potentially even be playing in May.
Maybe Ray's biggest win if he can get this one done. Mike, going to you. Ohio State at Maryland. Maryland's a 2-goal favorite. Games at 6 p.m. on Saturday.
Yeah, this is, prime time, which is great. But this just feels to me like it's going to be another rock fight. Like Hopkins-Rutgers rock fight. Big Ten, low scoring, body blows. Like that's the type of game this feels like. Ohio State's offense has just been struggling, to say the least. Maryland's offense hasn't been that great either. They both have great defenses, but the tipping point here is Maryland's offense, especially last week against Michigan, who we've all spoken about, has not been great. They showed some life, specifically Spanos, who's wearing the number 1 this year. I think he had 8 goals, which, he really wasn't that much of a presence. I know he was banged up and whatnot, but Hayden, you mentioned it. Prior to that, Leo Johnson was getting all the attention. And that was kind of seemed to be their offense. So if you get Spanos back in that mix, he's scoring 8 goals. Now you got 2 guys you really got to pay attention to, and it starts to open things up for other guys in the offense. I think that's what's going to separate in this game. Both defenses are great. They've been talked about a lot this year for good reason. Ohio State is also 2-6 at College Park against Maryland. So I just don't see Ohio State's scoring issues being fixed against a John Tillman team and a Maryland defense. So I'm going to go with Maryland to win and Maryland to cover the 2.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think that Maryland, Ohio State is kind of like a boring game this year. like we talked about it last year. Like Ohio State, good team, but they're a little boring. And like Maryland, I feel like I've watched them enough to know that like you kind of just know what they're gonna do every game, and like it depends who's gonna show up here and there, and there's gonna be some great plays, but like I think this is gonna be a low scoring game, not a lot of flash in there. I think goals are gonna be hard to come by. It's just kind of crazy to think like where we were a year ago, like this was an awesome game, and like it still is a good game, like 2 highly ranked opponents, but like it's probably going to be a little slower than your compared to like a UNC Cuse game,
6 p.m. on Saturday.
That's the big thing is pace, which I didn't mention. Like if you're what to expect in this game, the pace is just different. Like if you watch that Rutgers Hopkins game, it's a similar pace. It's not the high scoring ACC. For somebody like me who's a traditionalist and loves defense, I like watching these games, and it's primetime too, Big Ten clash. But it's just expect the pace to be slower, and the time possession, and these long streaks of no scoring, or just not few and far between. Yes. That's all.
Dan, I got a quick question for you on Maryland. I don't know if you watched the game last week, but there was a lot of course, stuff on social media about Mark Dixon kind of going after Leo Johnson and kind of being on him about like trash talk and all that. What's your stance on that? Like, do you think that's acceptable, or like? I mean, personally, I think it's acceptable. Like, it's a competitive game, but like, was he in the right to do that?
Was Dixon in the right, or was Johnson in the right?
I guess
or either one.
Or.
Well, I would say, I mean, like, also you mentioned that Maryland game this weekend, 6:00 BTN. That might be Joe B and Mark Dixon on there. So maybe
come on,
maybe Dixon can apologize to Johnson on broadcast if he really feels that strongly about it. Look, I was saying before we were getting going that I'm coaching in my town here, and I'm coaching second graders. And when you're coaching kids that little, like they're not really playing much lacrosse. It's just about like get them out there, make sure they're smiling, make sure they're having fun, and make sure they want to come back next week are like the things that I value most at that age. Make sure they want to come back. They want to bring a friend. They want to play lacrosse because they know it's going to be a good time. And part of doing that is like when something awesome happens, you celebrate it. You cheer for the kid. You make sure the kid's cheering for themselves and they feel good, because for kids who are learning lacrosse in particular, lacrosse is a tough sport to learn, man. There's a lot of things about it when you first start playing that are going to discourage you. Like learning to throw and catch is hard. Learning to cradle and pick up a ball is hard. And if you don't have enough of that positive reinforcement, it's really easy to get discouraged playing this game. So I'm all about celebrating the wins. And I don't think that lesson ends at the youth level. At the college level, at the highest level, at Leo Johnson's level, I think when you score a goal, you should feel pretty good, man. And I think it's okay to talk a little bit and do all of that and have some personality out there. I make the same kind of analogy as in football. I think it was a Bill Belichick thing where it was like, yeah, I want my guys to celebrate touchdowns and do all that. These guys spend an entire week working and game planning and practicing to find like the most minuscule edge of an advantage somewhere on the field that they can turn into a goal. And if they manage to actually do it in the game and turn that edge into a goal, I want them to feel really good about how hard they worked to get to that point where they said, I found something where I can have an edge and I can score. So I'm never going to knock, within reason, real, of course, unless he's saying something that's like genuinely offensive and horrible, then like obviously don't do that. But like if you've scored, you feel good about it and you want to talk a little bit, like don't have a problem with that. Don't have a problem with Michigan getting back at him. Don't have a problem with Michigan, being a little physical with him from that point in the game on, all that, and sorting it out again within the confines of the rules. But I feel like having some personality and all that is part of the game. I think, if I don't fault Dixon for saying he doesn't like that stuff. It was weird to be like, Rambo didn't behave this way. Like, Matt Rambo absolutely behaved that way. But like, if that's not part of the game and something that you like, it's okay to say, I wish there was some more stoicism, some more Barry Sanders-ish about it. The hand the ball to the referee stuff. There's always going to be that kind of crowd. So I think it's to each their own. For me personally, I don't have a problem at all with somebody scoring, feeling awesome about it, and letting people know that they feel awesome.
Good take. Passion is important.
Yeah.
Passion is important. Mark Dixon, Hayden Fry. That is the second last game. Last game's going to you, Dan. Rutgers at Michigan, games at noon on Sunday.
Yeah, this might also be a BTN game. A lot of these BTN Big Ten games now are linear, so like if you don't need a subscription to see some of these, which is great.
I love it. I love it so much. I love it. YouTube TV has all of it too. We have YouTube TV. Free shout for YouTube TV.
Yeah.
I feel like we've had no problems with Big Ten since we've had this package. So good job switching from Comcast. I'll let you go, Dan. Sorry.
Look, Rutgers is coming off a hell of a juice win over Hopkins. Again, I framed it the other way before, but a snatched victory from the jaws of defeat for Rutgers in that game. You know, you needed the 17-yard, 16-yard, whatever it was, bouncer to go to force OT and then score on a rebound to win it. But just like if we're being honest, we're being candid, the Rutgers offense is not great. It's Colin Curdilla's got 6 defenders watching him at all times, and then they're just daring the other guys to do anything. And it can be sometimes tough to find the other guys able to do a lot. Aiello, I think, has been banged up. You're seeing Younger Kiss more on offense as like a true like throwback, do everything midfielder, which is super fun, but maybe not an indication to me that their offense is in the healthiest spot. That said, man, Michigan was 3-0 on February 10th, and they have not won a game since. They currently are 3-7, and it's been, tough sled. They're in a year where they're rebuilding a little bit. They've got a lot of, young guys on offense who are promising players and stars of the future types. Some great Connecticut talent out there with guys like Luke Shanahan, guys like Adam Udell. But that's a team that's, learning a lot about what it means to play these Big Ten games, some of these high level games that they've played. I don't think that I don't think Michigan's going to win this game. I didn't see what the line was, but there's definitely a version of this game where I picked Michigan to cover just because the Rutgers offense has been so bad. Like, they run it up on St. John's, they run it up on Bellarmine, but 5 goals against Ohio State, the 9 that really very easily could have just been 7 against Hopkins. They had 9 against Princeton, but I think half of them came in the fourth quarter when the game was over because Princeton had 20 after 3 quarters. It's like you put up 11 on Hofstra. Like, you couldn't do better than that against Hofstra. I just don't see an offense out there that I think has been consistent and been great. So with the right spread, I'm on Michigan here. In a game where it's just an ugly one and it's low scoring, I would bet the total for this is pretty low. But, it would be tough for me to think Rutgers actually loses the game.
You made a point, and I keep coming back to your last podcast, but when you were last on here, we were talking about Michigan to a large extent because there was the year after they'd won the Big Ten for the first time, which was shocking. And your comment was, okay, Michigan, now, at first you were this new shiny toy and everyone's like, it would be cool if Michigan was good. And then you win the Big Ten, and then you come back next year and it's not, hey, this is fun, Michigan's good. It's no, you're Michigan and you just won the Big Ten and now you're a big boy and you have to act like it. And I think about that comment and their performance this year, and I'll say it, potentially the hot seat that Coach Connery's on. He's had a lot of success, definitely, but it's Michigan. They got the big M, they got the big logo, they got a lot of freaking money, to no one's surprise. Like, is this would you put the hot seat warning on? Is this something we need to pay attention to, or is this just a year where they're reloading, like you'd alluded to?
I think there's some reloading to it. I mean, the seat is probably getting a little bit warm there, but, again, it's young guys. Like, you lose close to Army, you lose by 1 to Lehigh. Like, they're in a lot of these games. You played Notre Dame, honestly, pretty close. But, to like what I said the last time I was on, like, it's Michigan, man. It's that athletic program. And once you win the Big Ten, you got to stay there and you got to stay in the conversation at that level. And they're not in that conversation this year. They're not they're not a team that's in the conversation to win the Big Ten, even though it seems like a lot of teams probably could. I don't think Michigan is a team I would pick to do that. You want to see there's the question for Michigan is, do they win a Big Ten game this year? You know what I mean? Like, do they beat anybody in the Big Ten? So I think maybe a little bit warm. The recruits are still going there, and it is still Michigan with the Block M and all that. There's a lot of draw to that athletic program. So they're going to have the talent. It's just about now. They had the success. They got there, and now it's got to be about sustain.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's great perspective on that program, which it's impossible not to pay attention to Michigan because you almost want them to be good because it is kind of the flashy, that would be cool if they were on top. But
they're also on linear television more than a lot of teams.
So much ESPN and Big Ten Network. Like they played who was it? Hopkins on ESPNU. They played Notre Dame on ESPNU. They're on Big Ten Network probably this weekend and will be a number of times. So You see a lot of them.
Yeah, it's one of those programs where it's because of the enormity and the scale of their football program and just how like historically great and such a blue blood football program it is that they have fans everywhere. And so when Michigan is good, you have people tuning in from all over America to watch Michigan. You know what I mean? It's like a Notre Dame or something like that, you know, where it's like because of how historically great the football is, their fandom is so massive as just an athletic program that if they're good, you're going to have fans tuning in from Florida to California to watch Michigan. So
right,
it's better when they're good.
We were at Harvard, Michigan, what was it, last year? And there was this guy. We were like we had little mics for the first time ever getting out and going and talking to people. And there's this guy in the Michigan kind of section at Harvard, and he had a cowbell, and he was like playing the cowbell, and like every time they score, they're going nuts. And we're like, we gotta talk to this guy.
Yeah.
And we meet him, and it's like,
I forget what it's like,
Cowbell John or something like that. And we're like, so like, you know, we put the mic to his
Why do they call you that?
We're like, yeah, we should have asked.
We were like, how long you been cowbelling?
He's like, yeah, how long you been doing this? I've been doing it for years. He's like, we started talking to him more, like, oh, so you a big lacrosse fan? Like, what do you think of the program? He's like, my first lacrosse game ever. Never been to a lacrosse game. This is awesome. It's so much fun. It's so fast. Like, you're just like, all right, John, thanks for being here. But you're right. I mean, to your point, it's because it's Michigan, and it's a household brand across the country. So it's a good conversation, and we'll keep an eye on them. But Dan, it's for those listening, so you know, it's 10:50 on a Tuesday, and we love this sport. If you didn't already believe it, Dan, it's hard to say we love this thing more than you do. But you've been an inspiration to us in a lot of ways, and how serious you take this, and for you being as kind as you have been throughout this our whole journey, and helping us in whatever way possible, whether that's submitting call-ins, telling stories about Charles Barkley before a bachelorette
I wish
party,
that had made it, man. I wish that had made it.
It did.
Oh, it did?
We put it in. It was the intro of one of our episodes, our last call-in episode.
Oh, my God. I'm so glad that made it. 100% true, by the way. I didn't make that up. 100% true.
Gosh. Well, it's the 45 minute. If you didn't say the 45-minute drive, it sounds like you would have had a story to tell with Charles Barkley for a few more nights.
Missed opportunities, man.
That's all right. Well, this wasn't one of them. This was a blast. Thank you so much, Dan. We really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of the games all season long. I'm sure we'll be in touch down the stretch. But from our team, anything else?
No. Thanks a lot for jumping on.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Dan.
Thanks, guys. I love what you guys do, man. It's important to have stuff like this in the lacrosse world. It's important to have, you know, the independent folks and the folks who are kind of unaligned and doing their own thing out there. I know from talking to folks who are in high places around lacrosse that stuff like this is important to them, and they're glad that things like this are happening. So if you don't get enough recognition, or you feel like you don't, trust me, there are people who see what you're doing and they really see the value in it and they think it's important. So please do keep up shows like this. This stuff is awesome, and I'm so pumped you had me back on. Pumped to be here again.
Of course. Go listen to Sticks In is the name of your podcast, right?
That's right. Sticks In Lacrosse, wherever you get your podcasts.
Go check it out. Way more polished than us. By all means, maybe not as many F-bombs, but it's a great show.
I had a lot in a recent episode, and my wife was pissed. She was. What was I cursing about? I was cursing about the no stream for Notre Dame and Georgetown, and I really let a lot of language go. And she was like, I was coming home from work. She was listening to something else, and she's like, and your podcast came on next. She's like, that was embarrassing. Like you like that was you can't do that. Can't do that. I was like, what are you editing me now? It's my podcast. I can say what I want.
I hope you showed her the stream when the announcement of it being streamed. This is what I did, honey. This is why.
No, this was after the Notre Dame Georgetown thing, because I was all fired up. Like I was like, you can't put a camera in Loftus. You can't put this game on for anybody. I got to listen to it on the radio like it's the fucking 1927 World Series. Like, this is a joke. And she was not happy with my tone or choice of words.
Well, we are, Dan. We love it. Thanks so much, man.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you to Dan Arrestia for hopping on. His ball knowledge goes beyond what we talk about on this show. He really watches everything. Like, he knows so much more than he's able to even talk about. So it's a privilege every time we get to talk to him. Thank you, Dan Arrestia. From a knowledge perspective, you probably got more out of that slate review than you have any all season. Andy was great as well, but that's just a level deeper with Dan Arrestia. So thanks to Dan. Any editorial comments for our listeners?
I also say thank you to the Collins. Like, we're getting guys, who are busy, They're active in the sport, and I feel like our quality of call-ins has been great. So I appreciate everybody who's calling in and participating in that. Again, CLG has live scores. Go check out the app this weekend. Obviously, we'll have our pick 'em. We almost have all the spreads, so we'll probably have that out tomorrow. Go in there, make your picks. Greg will, I'm sure, announce the prize for this week, as he does every week. So make sure you play and compete, and then go check out the app and the other features. Go track schedules, go track the scores, and excited to announce some other cool stuff on the way.
Thanks, Brett. Thanks, guys. Cheers.